Hey friends, it's Joby here, and today we're going to check out some Overwatch. I managed to get into the beta for this, which is odd, but I got in anyway. So at the moment there aren't any Australian servers, so everyone's playing on US servers, no matter where they are. And that means I'm rocking about a 220 ping, which makes it a little bit more challenging, but you know, if you grew up in the early stages of online gaming, you're probably used to playing with far worse pings anyway, so let's see. I'm going completely unscripted on this, which, you know, isn't normal for me, so let's see how we go. First thing I wanted to talk about is how it's very much more like Team Fortress 2 than it is like a MOBA. It's not like a symmetrical sort of game style. So it's very much attackers and defenders, and that affects your team composition. But it also affects the way you play. I mean, team composition is super important in this game. It is ultra important. It means it's the difference between picking the turret guy, whose name I can't remember. It's something with a lot of consonants, versus picking maybe a I don't know, another attacker like Reaper or the gunslinger guy. I don't know anyone's names yet, by the way. That might be obvious. So whereas in a MOBA, because it's symmetrical, you have a bunch of players that you always pick. Because it's attacker and defender, you instead have to really think about the role you need to play for your team. And very helpfully, they show you what your team does and doesn't have, like no builders or no tank or stuff like that. And that allows you to rejig. Like if everyone's just gonna, like if the other 5 people on your team are just gonna go, oh screw it, I'm gonna be my favorite character, then you get an idea of what your team needs anyway, and you can always at least attempt to make up for it by picking, you know, say the tank or the builder. Although I found that on defense, a builder isn't always that necessary. You can still get away with it. Maybe just the quality of gameplay isn't that high yet, and so you know, they haven't really worked like the other. Everyone hasn't worked out the best roles, and so Blizzard recommends a builder, but perhaps at this stage the quality of playing isn't high enough to require one. One of the things I noticed is that for a beta, it's got a lot of maps. I think there's 5 or 6 already, and they're all quite different. They all follow the same 2 basic makeups. So you've got your escort missions where you escort a payload. It's identical to the TF2 game. And you've also got your capture missions where you just have to capture 2 different points. And the capture missions I've found are a lot easier to win on attacking, because it's just a lot easier for you to, if you can slow down your enemy, then it's a lot easier for you to eventually triumph. The other thing is, on payload maps, it seems like you've got 3 checkpoints, which means you've got 3 objectives that you need to complete. You've got to capture the payload, and then you've got to move it to the first objective, and then move it to the second objective. And because of that, it seems like, yeah, you've got a bit of an advantage if you're playing defense on a payload. You can also push the payload back a bit. It moves very slowly backwards, but you can shift it backwards. Sometimes that's not the best thing for your team, though. Sometimes it's not the optimal strategy, especially if I'm like locked up as Bastion. Sometimes I'd prefer it if my team didn't actually push the cart back, because they can move in, like the other team will just move in and continue to try to push it. And as Bastion, if I've got a perfect line of sight, I can destroy people, which is Bastion's a little robot that sits down and becomes a turret, and he's super killer. He's very clutch. There's lots of heroes already, enough that I haven't learned all their names. I've got 2 favorites: Reaper on offense and Bastion on defense. I also like what's his name, like Lockjaw or something. He's a big fat dude. He's got a hook. He's basically stitches, and Yeah, I like him as he's my favorite tank. He's actually not he doesn't have that much survivability, but he has this shotgun. So if you hook someone, drag them towards you, and then shotgun them in the face, it's usually a kill. And it's you also disrupt them while you've got them hooked, so they can't actually do anything. They're stunned basically, and so you get a lot of opportunity to do a lot of damage. And so as a tank, he's actually not that super good, but as a super killer with like high survivability, he's actually pretty solid. What else is there? There's there's this play the game thing at the end. At the end of the game, you don't get like a traditional scoreboard. Instead, you get a play of the game, which picks one moment from the game, and it sort of says, you know, this is the best one. This is the best play of the entire game. This one looked really cool. I worry that it might encourage people to go for flashy hero bullshit as opposed to playing correctly for their team, and it might encourage people who want to, you know, the narcissistic types, to actually, you know, not pick support heroes when they should. Well, that's not that bad. Like, you'll see a lot of this. A lot of what I've recorded, I'm not playing a support hero. It's just I haven't really got a handle on them yet. I haven't got the. I don't want to let down my team while I'm still learning how to do these things. So yeah, I haven't really got a handle on any of the supports. Although the Angel chick is pretty pro. You just need to. I mean, she can heal through a lot of stuff. So yeah, what else? Yeah, basically I'm worried that play of the game will encourage people to, yeah, focus on doing flashy stuff as opposed to playing the game, which is an irony. You also don't get to see, you only get to see your own stats, although it does rank you 1 through 3, depending on how well you did on your team. I've been doing pretty well at this so far. I think the only people playing might be games journos, which might explain quite a bit. That'd be why I'm doing well, but still, I keep getting one or in the top 3 on my team, and yeah, that's usually like for whatever stat I'm currently chasing, obviously. So yeah, that's good. And what else? It's good looking. It's good fun. They are doing the beta in waves, so hopefully, I think they're gonna wait to like mass release to Aussies until they've got Australian servers. I think that's pretty important, because not everyone. I've got the NBN. I think I get away with some stuff because I've got a better internet connection. So I am at the lowest end of the ping. That's basically the lowest anyone in Australia is gonna get. So I think, you know, if it starts to go up to around 300, I mean, I already can't be the gunslinger guy because he requires a lot of precision. I prefer Reaper because he's got basically 2 shotguns. So yeah, it's just one of those things, I guess. I'm heading to BlizzCon, so I'll have more on Overwatch. I'm going to interview some people working on the game. I'll also talk to a bunch of other people at BlizzCon. So yeah, stay tuned for all of that. And that's about it. That's my first look at Overwatch. Let's see if I've got enough footage to... I mean, I've talked for ages. Normally I'd try to wrap this up in 5 minutes. Ridiculous! Anyway, thanks for joining me. Hit like, hit subscribe, if you haven't already, of course. Don't hit subscribe if you've already subscribed, because I think they will unsubscribe, and yeah, we don't need that. And if you like podcasts where I talk shit for hours on end, head to the gapodcast.com. We're Australia's longest running games podcast. Seriously. We're nearly up to 300 episodes. Each episode is like 2 hours long. And yeah, it's all quality. Actually, a lot of it's trash, but check it out anyway. And I will see you guys next week after I've been to BlizzCon. My first ever BlizzCon. I'm pretty excited. Anyway, bye.
Reaper's up top.
Movement.
Sniper, get your head down.
Good call. Junkrat income. There you go. Watch the rip bomb.
This might sting.